Thank you. Let me do the usual, which is I'm going to open the in-call messages, the text box also, while we are going through the call. So that way, I'm able to see what you are seeing as we go forward, right? Okay. Let's see if you can do it this way. All right. Yeah, I think this should be fine. Okay. Okay, let's give everybody another minute or so, and then we can get started. Okay. Meanwhile, let me see. Yeah, it is started recording. I think we have everything that we need. All right. I think we have a good quorum, so let's get started. So my first question to you guys is, think about all the products that you have used, right, so far. There is always this feeling that you are left with that, oh, I love this product, or yeah, this product does the job, but it's okay. So have you ever wondered, how we get hooked to certain products and not so much to some other products? Um, can any of you tell me why we get or why we like certain products, whereas we are okay with the other products? Anybody wants to tell me why you like or love certain products, whereas you don't love all products that you use? They're just there, you use them, you may not like deeply love them. Anyone wants to take a stab at why this happens in our minds? So Jeev Bharati is saying ease of use and experience. Yes, great answer, right? Any other answer? So what Jeev Bharati is saying is that, if there is ease of use of using a certain product, it leaves you with some good impression and you start liking a product, right? Um, any other any other reason? Anyone? You think about all the apps and the websites they use. Some are very easy to navigate. Some are very difficult. Some are very complex. They all may get a job done, but not every website, not every app, not every product that you use, you end up liking that, right? Or loving that. So let's dive deeper into this particular subject, which is user experience and user interface, right? We are not limiting ourselves to talking about designing of both, but kind of try to find out, what is the difference between user experience and user interface, and let's compare, contrast them. Let's look at how they're used in the industry, right? But before we move to why we have to learn this topic, or why user experience is so important. Can anybody answer why user experience of a product? So you buy a product, you use it, and then you're left with a feeling of good, bad, not good, ugly, whatever it is, right? Why is it important for us to understand, or to put so much of emphasis on user experience? Keep sending your answers in the chat box. I'll keep looking at them. Any one or two reasons why you like a certain product, or what happens to the product if you have a good experience versus what happens to the product if you have not so good of an experience. I'll give you a few seconds to write your answers. Don't feel shy to write, what comes to your mind, why you think it is important or not important to learn user experience. Anyone wants to go for it? Why is it so crucial? So the answer is that there is a differentiation between okay products, good products, and great products. And you will always find that one of the big differentiators of a great product from a good product is the user experience. Okay. And we'll talk in much more detail what the user experience means, but that is the number one reason, right? That it's a big differentiator. And then why do you want big differentiators, right? You want big differentiators so that it it basically enhances your product sale, so you can do better business. Your customers are happy, they keep repeating or repeatedly using your product, and basically make you happy because they are going to pay you a lot, right? As repeat customers, they are going to pay you as they are using a product. Now, why is it important for you guys to understand this is, not each one of you is going to be a UX designer. Not each one of you is going to work on the front end, what we call as user interface here. But each one of you is going to work somewhere in the stack, right? It could be front end, it could be middleware, it could be back end, it could be something else, right? Each one of you is going to work in some or the other stack that you are going to use. If you are in manufacturing sector, then you are going to use, here I see a lot of, um, emojis thrown by Vishal. So Vishal, thank you very much, but you know so many thumbs ups are not required now. You can stop sending those. Okay. All right, so coming back to the topic, front to back, as you are basically using the product, you are going to influence, you are going to contribute to user experience. Every small thing that you are going to do in the product, if you are a backend engineer, you are doing performance tuning for a certain product, you are increasing the performance time of the product by even 10% or 1%, it is going to affect the user experience, right? If you are a data science person and you are collecting, analyzing data, and those data, that the analysis is going to help make certain decisions for the product, or a certain level of personalization or recommendation that your product is doing based on that data, then you are going to affect the user experience. So UX, user experience, is not limited to just the front end that you are seeing, but the entire experience of using the product, right? And of course, the last reason why you should worry about, or you should be interested in UX and UI, is that it is a great career option. Okay. So always remember that UX UI is a, a, a career option that many have, many select, and they become very successful in it. There is, of course, a lot of hard work and learning which goes towards becoming a great UX designer, right? And we'll get into some more details of what a UX designer does, what UX means, and so on. What I want you to do is look at the images on the screen, right? Okay. And this is where we start differentiating between UX, which is user experience, and UI. So the story that I want to tell you is that, let's say you or your friend drink, let's say, mango juice, right? It is mango seasons in India, and you're drinking a mango milkshake or a mango juice or eating mango ice cream. The feeling that you are left with after you're eating or while you're eating is the user experience. Okay. Whereas the size of the cup, the size of the scoop, the size of the spoon, the method that you're eating, and so on, that is all you are interfacing with the product, which is the ice cream in this case, right? Take another example of a car, right? When you are driving the car and you get off the car, or you're driving a bike, a motorbike, you get off the bike, you find that, hey, you know what? This was such a fun ride. And it leaves you with an enjoyable experience. It's all about, the user's feelings, how the user is feeling after using the product or while using the product, right? And that is user experience. While you're riding the bike, you don't keep thinking about, the rim is this much size, the engine capacity is this much, my seats are made of, double layered foam, and my handle grips are like this, or my car has, an AC which cools to 10 degrees, it has individual, heated seats. You don't do that. What you think in your mind is that whether that ride was enjoyable, whether the ride is enjoyable, that is user experience. Whereas all these buttons, the gear stick on the right side, the steering wheel, the horn, everything is a user interface for you to communicate with that machine, right? The car is a machine, and the way that you can communicate with that machine is through all these buttons, the clutch, the accelerator, the gear lever, and sometimes even voice activation, right? Some cars nowadays are even voice activated. So all of this is interfacing with the car, and that is user interface of the car. Now there is a whole science to user interface design, and there is a whole science to user experience design, right? And we'll get into more details as we move forward. But these are the two broad differentiations that you can keep on mind between what a UX is and what a UI is. Okay. Any questions on the differentiation itself? Do you have any questions on what is a good UX or what is UX? Like I said, it is all about the thoughts and emotions of the customer when using a particular product, right? And if the customer is satisfied, the customer is going to give you more business, your business is going to see you more growth. And thus it is very important to pay a lot of attention to your product's UX. All right. Okay, so let's look at a few products now, and let's try to understand this concept of good and bad designs, right? See this product. Why is this a good UX? Why is this a good user experience? Can somebody tell me? Can you write your answers in the chat window? Why is this product a good user experience? This is MailChimp, which is a mailing software. And this is the sign up screen or the login screen for the MailChimp. Seems like a sign up screen. So why is this interface good? Can anybody take a guess? Think about it. Look at all the elements and take a educated guess and write your answers in the chat window. Why this product that you're seeing on the screen is a good user interface. No right or wrong answers, please. Go ahead and write what comes to your mind, why this interface is good, or tell me why it is not good. Either way is fine. Okay, let's do this, right? Give me a thumbs up if you feel that this is a good interface, right? So the reason is that as you start manufacturing, as you start creating your password, it tells you that the password has to be lowercase, one letter lowercase, one character lowercase, one character uppercase. There should be a number in the password, there should be a special character, has to be minimum 8 characters, and must not contain the same username. All of this is displayed to you while you are creating your password. So many websites I've seen that while you are creating the password, you type in something, you hit enter, and then something pops up saying that password, use some other password, and then it tells you, gives you a long list of things, and then you kill that window, go back again, you start typing again, you make a mistake again, you repeat the process, and so on. Not that you are not able to create the password finally, right? But it took you like 3 times, 3 attempts, till you got your password right. In this case, as you can see, as you are typing the password, it tells you that, okay, in your password, in your current password, you have not used an uppercase and you have not used a special character. So you exactly know what my password is lacking, and you can make that change while you are creating your password itself. So in one go, only in one cycle, you are able to create your password and move forward, right? This is good user interface. And the reason why we call it good is because it leaves you with a good experience. You don't struggle creating the password, right? And it's all about not letting the customer struggle. Always remember that the emotions, the feelings, the thoughts of the customer tell you how good or bad the user experience is, right? So if you appeal to the customer's joy, if you create a product which gives the customer joy, or in other words, if you give a product to the customer which gives the customer less headache, less stress, less struggle, the customer is happy. Okay, and that happiness is again an emotion. So once you appeal to the emotion, you got a product which is a positive appeal to the emotion is a good UX. All right, let's look at another product. What is this product, by the way? Can somebody tell me what this product is? I want more people to be answering questions, please. You guys, are engineers, you are bold, smart people. So tell me what this product is. Okay. Google Maps, correct. Now, Jeeva Bharti, can you tell me why this user interface is good? What could be the reasons, or anybody else also, right? Please contribute, because the more you contribute, the more you are going to learn. Okay, the more you participate, the more you are going to learn through these sessions. So, can you tell me? Can anybody tell me Why this is a good interface? Maybe one or two things that you like about this interface. I'm pretty sure a lot of you use Google Maps, right? Can you answer why do you use Google Maps and not some other maps? There are at least, five other companies which provide the GPS software, right? But why do you use Google? Any guesses? All right, so interest of time, I'll move forward. So on the left or the middle image, the left side image of the Google Maps is okay. Somebody Vijay Tahal is saying because it provides real-time location tracking, but there are so many others which provide real-time, right? Is it because the real-time? I mean, one good thing about Google is that it is super fast or fast as compared to others, right? With high accuracy. Deepak is saying they keep updating. It is hassle free and it is free. Yes, a free interface, of course, gives users joy. We know that, and it is hassle free. See, the reason is it gives you a lot of information what is relevant to you at that point in time. You have put in an address that you got to go from point A to point B. It tells you right there if you use a car, 6 minutes, train, 23 minutes, walking, 28 minutes, and so on. It tells you that green color, 6 minutes in green color. What does it mean? What does that green color mean in 6 minutes? Everybody can see that 6 MIN is written green color in the image. What does that green mean? So the green is basically telling you that there is no traffic, right? I mean, you have used, I'm pretty sure everybody knows that if there is slight bit of delays on the road, it starts showing orange. And if there is a traffic jam, it shows red, right? So it is telling me that it is no traffic to get there. And here are three different options how you can get there. Now, if I select the train option, it can also tell me that I have to walk 7 minutes, then I have to take a train for 22 minutes and then walk 13 minutes again to go from point A to point B. And the train will cost me $3. And which station do I pick up the train from? And the total journey is 24 minutes. So much of information is told to me, and this is all relevant information, right? So the beauty of this design is that first, like somebody said, it is real time. Second, it is fast, so high performance, real time, high accuracy, like Vijayata said, right? Absolutely high accuracy. It is free, like Deepak said. And the last of all is it is showing me relevant information, because Google Maps can show you so much information, right? It can tell me, let's say, the weather at my destination, it is raining there, or it is 30 degrees there. At the start point, it is 25 degrees. Is that really relevant to me right now? Google has that information, but it is relevant to me? Not relevant. So don't show it to the user, right? So simplifying the the content that is getting presented to the user is a big part of the user interface. And if you get the if you get it right, like these guys have done in this particular product, it is a good user experience finally, right? Let's look at another product. Okay, everybody has used this product also. Again, we'll not spend a lot of time, but very similar reasons why everybody likes this product, right? You have to go from point A to point B. You know, the premier is going to cost me this much, Uber Go is going to cost me that much, an auto rickshaw that much, mode of payment, and click in one page. I don't have to like scroll pages after pages. In one click page, I can click and book a, a, a taxi, Uber taxi, right? Let's look at another product. You must have used Zoom calls, right? Very clean interface. What jumps out here is that it is a very clean and simple interface. Do you want a new meeting? Do you want to join an existing meeting? Do you want to open a schedule, or do you want to share a screen? Four options, four buttons, and one or two words below that button, very simple text. And on the right side shows you what is your today's schedule. You have no meetings today, right? So very clean and simple kind of interface is what we are seeing here. Okay. Let's look at another. What is the problem that you see? Now I'm showing you some of questionable user interfaces which lead to questionable user experience. So tell me what is wrong here in this figure, in this image. Again, all of you are science graduates, would be engineers, problem solvers. What problem do you see in this image? I hope everybody agrees that there is some problem in this image, but what is it? Okay, so Jay Shankari saying image shows pull, but it is push. Okay, anybody else wants to challenge Jay Shankari? Or anybody wants to agree or has a different opinion? I want one more answer. Why or what is the problem in this image? There is no need to mention push on both sides, is what Jeev is saying. So seems like Jeev, you are saying that the push can be displayed only on one side. Why both sides? So that's what you are saying. Okay. So by the way, Jay Shankari, you are exactly right. See, the human brain is tuned to do certain things on intuition. Okay. So for a moment, imagine that push is not written there at all. It's just blank. And you see two handles. Okay. Our human DNA, our human brain will instruct your hand to go pull the door. Okay. You see a handle, you pull the door. Okay. If you see a flat plate there, okay, even if you don't try to push, if you just imagine that, there was no handles on the door and nothing written on the door, the human intuition is to push the door open with both your hands or one hand. So think about what the human emotion is while the human is trying to open or close these doors. You have basically given a handle. My brain is telling me that if I have a handle, I have to pull. But then my eyes are telling me that, hey, look, it's push written there. So I've created like a pull push in my mind. Shall I pull or shall I push? Right? And that is bad design. That is a bad user interface. It will work, finally somebody will pull, they will find that the door is getting stuck, and then they will push. But these kind of, especially this design of the handles, is not meant to be used for pushing anything. So what is the right kind of design? The right design is that I don't have the handles, I just have like two vertical plates, okay, which I can use to push the door open. And sometimes, even if it is written push there, you're fine with it. Are you getting it? Can you give me a thumbs up if you got what the problem is with this design? Because there is a very interesting thing. Remember, guys, um, good user experience goes with the right kind of human intuition also, right? So you have to create products which are in line with human habits, okay? If the human habit or the human intuition is that you are pushing the door when you see a flat panel, you are pulling the door when you see a handle, then why create a product which is the other way around, right? It is going to cause a little more struggle. So remember always that, good user experience means less struggle. It is not like, it is not going to work. Finally, it is the door is going to open or close, whichever way, whatever that human wants to do, it's going to happen. But mentally, you have left the human with a little icky emotion that, hey, what is this? These guys have written push here and they're given a handle and so on, right? That is what the human is left with, a little annoyed, a little irritated, a little angry, and so on, right? So that is the power of having a good user experience. Let's look at another product, okay? What problem do you see, or what is the difference between the left side and right side? Both are basically Garnier products. Both are hydrating lotions, body lotion, hydrating lotion, whatever you call it, right? But what is the big difference between these two? Which product do you think? These are real products which are selling in the market. Okay. Both products are selling in the market. Which product? Okay. Let me ask you a very pointed question. Which product is selling more? Is it the green one or is it the beige product or the yellow one, whatever that color is? Which product is selling more? Take a guess. If you don't know, it's okay. What do you think? Use your intuition. Which product is selling more? There are a couple of people who have raised their hand in Google Meet. You guys can type your answer or type your question in the chat window. I'll be happy to answer there, or be happy to see your answers there. Please, I encourage everybody to use the chat window. My question is, which product out of these two is selling more? Take a wild guess. It's okay. No right or wrong answers. Okay. So Jay Shankar is saying the green is selling more. Can you tell me why, by the way? Okay. Deepak is saying orange, Bijeta is saying green. Okay. Any of you guys want to tell me why? Why do you think green is selling more and Deepak, why is orange selling more? Or if anybody else has another opinion, if somebody thinks that they are equal, you can write equal also. Any guess why? Okay. So while you are thinking, let me kind of start describing, right, what and how these products are being used. And this is how we have already taught you guys on a technique called critical thinking, right? So if you are given this kind of a problem statement, that if you are a product manager, okay, or if you are the chief sales guy, and you're told that between these two, which one, what do you want to sell first, you don't need to jump to a end solution that, hey, I'll sell green, or hey, I'll sell orange. There has to be a logical stepwise explanation towards how I have arrived at green or how I have arrived at orange, right? So in this case, the logical explanation is that, let's look at the green bottle. Okay, so it is basically, there is a pump at the top. You know how it works, right? You have to pump the lotion, you have to press on that lever at the top, and it pumps out the body lotion, and you can use it. Okay, some people say that that pump always requires two hands, but I think even the right side bottle requires two hands, because the bottle, you have to open the cap at the top, and then you have to turn it upside down and squeeze the bottle, right? So green, you have to squeeze it. R- Orange, you have to pump it, right? So one difference between the two is pump on the left, squeeze on the right. Okay, for green. Now the problem with the orange bottle, the one with the pump at the top, is that about 10-15% of the body lotion always remains at the bottom, which you cannot pump, because the pumps are such that the design is such that they cannot pump out 100% or close to 100% of the body lotion. So then people struggle. Then what they do is they twist that cap, they open it. Then while opening it, some of it spills out, or if they open it, they cannot put it back on, or once they open it, to utilize that bottom 10%, they have to turn it upside down. So there is a user struggle associated with the orange bottle. Or those people who don't struggle, they are basically wasting 10-15% of the lotion each time, right? And each time they're wasting it, they have that back of their mind, that I am throwing this bottle away, but I know that that bottle is not really empty. There is still some lotion at the end of the bottle, the bottom of the bottle, right? That is the user experience that you're leaving the user with when they are using orange. And on the right side, the green bottle, the user experience is that you can turn the bottle upside down and keep squeezing out the lotion until the bottle really crumples, right? So let's say only 1 or 2% of that lotion gets wasted in every bottle, but you are pretty much able to utilize all of it. Now, utilizing a product to its maximum extent gives a certain kind of joy, right? It's like a return on investment also, right? For the end consumer. So the next time I want to buy a bottle, maybe the first time I bought the orange bottle, but the next time I want to buy it, it's the same exact lotion in both the bottles. I will buy the green one, because now I know in my mind that I'm wasting a little bit, or if I'm not wasting, I'm at least struggling to pull out that last 10% from the bottle. And on the right side, user is not struggling. So the user is not left with any kind of emotion like anger, irritation, frustration, nothing of that sort, right? The user is actually joyous that I got the maximum return from this bottle. And going by our earlier principle, once the user is joyous, you have given a good user experience to the user, right? All right, so far so good. Everybody can hear me well. Can somebody give me a thumbs up? They can hear me well. All good. Balraj, you have raised your hands. Rashma, Jaishankari. Okay, seems like you guys can hear me okay, right? All right. So now let's solve a particular problem together. Okay. So read what you are seeing on the screen. I will anyway read it out to you, but I'll give you 30 seconds to read it, and then I'll describe it. Okay. So while that is happening, let me answer earlier questions. Okay, so Deepak is saying while seeing the orange, it's clear that they mentioned body lotion and normal skin, which is more than enough to buy. Sir, you said that wasting is less on the right side, but think whether it has more quantity and so weight. People can't often lift the bottle in that situation. The left side top cap will be effective like shampoo. You're right. You're right, Deepak. So if it is a very heavy bottle, and that's good critical thinking, by the way. If so, what everybody's saying is that, let me quickly go back to this. What Deepak is saying is that if the left bottle is like a 1 liter bottle, then the pump on the top makes a lot of sense, which is absolutely good design, right? And the one on the right may not make so much sense. If it is a heavy bottle, you have to lift the entire thing and squeeze it with one hand, becomes a user irritation. Absolutely. But in this case, what you're seeing on the in the picture, these are small handheld bottles which you can carry in your purse. And thus our example basically concluded that the green bottle is easier to use. Vijayata is saying that, due to packaging, it is appealing and travel. Yeah, of course, packaging, um, maybe, the left side is more prone to spillage. When I'm traveling, I would want to make sure that accidentally the pump doesn't get pressed in my backpack or in my purse, right? When I'm putting my body lotion in my purse or in my backpack, accidentally that pump doesn't. So it leaves me with a little bit of scare in mind that, hey, what will happen if that somebody throws my bag around and that pump gets pressed, right? Some liquid will come out and damage my clothes or whatever, right? That is absolutely, appealing to the user empathy or understanding user empathy, and we'll come to that in a minute. But you guys are absolutely right. This is how you should basically think very critically about the products, why they are designed the way they are designed, and could there be a different design which gives a better user experience. Okay, so any product that is lying around you, you can continuously think about it in that manner. All right. So problem statement. What we are going to do is design a cash withdrawal experience. Okay. Everybody must have experienced cash withdrawal, meaning everybody must have experienced going to the ATM and pulling out cash, right, from the ATM. Now, what you guys or we all will do together is design this workflow, okay, for the best user experience and best of whatever options we have, right? So, can you tell me what are the best steps for withdrawing cash? Anyone? You must have done it in the past. So, what are the best steps, or what do you think are the best steps? Even if you have not done it, to withdraw cash, there are certain things that you do, right? Step one, step two, step three, step four, and then you get your cash. So, what are the best steps for withdrawing cash? Is the question. Think of yourself as standing in front of an ATM machine. You can take take a minute or two to think about and write the steps that come to your mind. Okay. Who is the brave person who wants to tell me, what are the steps to withdraw cash? Is it that difficult? You have to just tell me, single words also, right? What do you do first? What do you do next? What do you do next? And what do you do next? One, two, three, four, five. Just tell me what are the steps to withdraw cash. Write it in the chat window. I'll give you another minute. Okay, Jayasankari saying insert the card. Slot correct way. Okay. Next. Follow the instructions. Select your preferred language. And then select the withdraw cash option. Yeah, maybe a couple of more steps if you can tell me till you withdraw cash. Okay. So you selected the option. Then what? Enter the amount. Okay. Enter the security pin. Okay. Insert ATM. Okay. Bijeta has written insert ATM. Choose getting bill option. Choosing withdraw option. Then amount. Then pin. Then take out ATM. And I assume Bijeta, what you mean is take out the ATM and then take out the cash, right? Deepak is saying insert card, then pin check, then list type of account options like saving. Okay. Then enter amount, check balance, signal machine to give money, view balance if needed, then remove card, open the collection box and take the cash. Okay. And Jai Shankar is basically saying insert the card, follow the instructions, select your preferred language, select the withdraw cash, enter the amount, enter security pin, and second, select to confirm. Okay. All right. So just like the earlier example, right? And then your transaction will be complete. Okay. This is good. By the way, this is a great attempt. But one of the things that if you want to be a good product manager, if you want to be a good UX designer, okay, I'm purposefully repeating the term UX designer, which basically means if you want to be a good user experience designer, then you are going to pay attention to the human emotions involved while using the product, right? And that's number one. Number two is, should we actually jump to, so what I had said was, what are the best steps for withdrawing cash, right? But wait, let's not, fall in the trap of assuming that the card is to be removed and then the cash to be collected. Let's not assume that the pin, because Deepak has said that the pin check has to be upfront. Somebody else has said that the security pin is towards the end. A third person is saying that collect the cash and then collect the ATM card and so on, right? See, if we apply the same thinking, right, the same critical thinking to solving this, we will be able to arrive at a logical answer, and that too, it's like the best of what we have today. Is it the best ever? Is it the best ever ATM workflow invented so far? No. As we progress, I'm pretty sure that better and better workflows are going to get invented. But let's, from a today's perspective, let's look at what is the best that you can choose from the options that you have, right? So just to reiterate, the steps in critical thinking are going to be collection of data, analyze that data, synthesize that data, apply mental models. And you guys know, right? I mean, we have talked about mental models like Pareto principle, first principles thinking, inversion, compare and contrast. What else? Occam's razor, and so on. Right? There are so many mental models out there, and we have also told you guys, just a refresher, that you should look at YouTube's, go to YouTube and you look at YouTube videos by Charlie Munger. He's kind of explained several of these mental models, or some lot of gurus have explained these mental models. These are basically, like best principles, right? That one could use. These are like practical rule sets that one could use to apply to such problem statements, right? And then once you apply all this, once you analyze all this, once you throw away the data that you don't need, what remains, you can then decide between maybe one or two options that remain. Then it becomes a much easier decision than risk of jumping to a solution, right? And that's the power of critical thinking. Going through that process, you are able to cover many pitfalls that may occur if you just jump to a certain answer, right? So let's apply this process to UX, right? User experience designing. All right. So now if you think about the UX and UI design process, there is research involved. So number one is research. In research, basically you talk with various stakeholders, subject matter experts, you do a lot of competitive analysis. Essentially, it's all about collecting a lot of data, right? You're collecting a lot of data on one side around ATMs, okay? And we'll look at what kind of data do we collect. Second is to empathize, right? The empathy step is basically, there are two sub steps in empathy. One is called as the journey mapping. So what you guys have written from step 1 to step 9, or some, step 1 to step 6, all these are customer journeys or consumer journeys, okay? And there could be multiple paths of that journey, right? You start from 1, then you do 3, then you do 5, then you do 2, then you do 4, and then you end at 7, and then you do 6. This is one path. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 could be the other path. 6, 2, 3, 5, 1 could be another path, and so on, right? So each of these paths is basically called the consumer journey. These journeys are evaluated from the perspective of how the user experience is going to be, and you come up with the right journey. The other important thing is, in the empathy step, is the empathy mapping, right? What is empathy mapping? We'll do a little detailed analysis, but these two things, so collection of data, mapping the user journey, and then arranging the information, right? So you have a big ATM machine in front of you. The screen is at least, let's say, 10 inches by 10 inches. So you can give a lot of controls, right? Think about our BMW car. For heating the engine, heating the front seats, you can give one button. Heating the back seat, you can give one button. Opening the left window, you can give one. Opening the right window, you can give one. So it will be a like a airplane dashboard right inside the car. But is it that way in modern cars? It's not, right? A lot of cars are just touchscreen. So right now, if you just want to open the windows, it just gives you an option 1, 2, 3, 4, or it can give a sub menu that open the window and then open window number 4, and then it only lowers the back right window, and so on, right? So how do you place all this is the third step, which is information architecture. And then you go through process of review, analysis, and final production, right? So let's look at this one by one. Collection of data. For our process, we are going to withdraw cash. We are designing a process to withdraw cash from a ATM. What kind of data will you collect to make good decisions? Give me maybe two or three, and I'll tell you the rest. What data do you need when you are designing a cash withdrawal process from ATM? You can take a minute, type in your answers, or as they come to your mind, keep typing them. I'll read all the answers. All right. So I'm going to give you a clue. See, there could be the data itself. You can think about the machine specific data. So there is data around, the machine performance by pressing a key, what is the performance, what is the response time, and so on. Then there is data around the user, right? That the one is, of course, designing the machine itself, that how tall the ATM machine should be. If the machine is in India, what is the average Indian height, right? So that people can operate. You can't like put that screen on the floor, nor you can put it at 6 feet level, right? You have to put it at a level where it's ergonomically suitable for the user to operate, and so on, right? So let's say those things are taken care. Then the kind of user data that you're looking at is the behavioral data, right? So data like um, from the past experience, what would be the maximum withdrawals in a day, okay? Or data like what is the time of the day when there are maximum withdrawals? When is it that there is a lot of rush in the ATM cabins, right? When is it that, let's say, or what is the amount that the user withdraws from the ATM? What is the highest number of frequency at which the user withdraws? Does the user withdraw from current account or savings account? And so on, right? And then there could be the ATM performance itself, right? So things like um, cash availability. So in what, based on the location of the ATM, whether there is enough, like Jay Shankar is saying, right? If there is enough amount in my ATM, right? So if it is a ATM machine which is in the like the heart of the city, very densely populated, and people who use a lot of cash, want to withdraw a lot of cash, obviously those ATMs are going to be very busy. Then how much of cash should be um, stored in those machines versus a much remote machine where there is not so much of withdrawal that's happening, right? So you have to have all that data. So that data is pertaining to the ATM's performance itself, right? um, Transaction speed, clicking of a button, how much time to react, and so on, right? And of course, on the transaction data side, what kind of cards are used, or um, you know uh, what is the typical operation you do after you withdraw cash. So right after you withdraw cash, do you do balance inquiry, okay, or do you just get out? and so on. So all the data, let's assume that we have collected all that data. Okay, so this is what the bunch of data that we have collected looks like. Now let's move to the next step, which is the journey mapping and the empathy mapping. And here is where it gets interesting now, right? So think about the journey. Okay, so the journey could be two steps. Like we said, it could be that 1 2 3 4 5 6, a straight 1 2 3 4 5 6 journey. It could be 1 3 4 2 5, or it could be any other jumble, right? Some of you also, the people who answered, they also stated that the pin should be first. Some people say that the pin should be last. Some people say that the card should be given back to the user first. Some say that the cash should be given to the user first, and so on. But there is a science that we can use. There is a science that we can apply, which is basically called empathy mapping, to determine what is the user's mental state while doing these operations. And let's look at it, right? So journey first journey is enter the pin. Okay, so you are standing in front of the ATM, enter the pin, which basically means enter the card, put the pin, validate, and then it brings you're inside, right? You're shown the landing screen. The second is then you enter the amount. But remember, a lot of times you see this quick, what is it called? Quick cash, right? So if you already know from the data that you have collected that typically users withdraw between 2000 rupees and 4000 rupees, then why don't I just give a button which says 2000? Why do I have to make the user type those four characters, right? 2000, enter. So how many? 1 2 3 4 5 clicks the user has to do to enter the amount. Whereas if you just give a 2000 rupee button, it is one click, right? So that is the use of the data. When you are entering the amount, you can give an option to pick from a standard amount or other amount, and then let user enter. Some ATMs I've seen, give you an option to select denomination, that I only want 100 rupee notes, I only want 500 rupee notes, and so on. You can give those options and then you select OK. That's step 2. Step 3 is whether you want the receipt or not. Right now, this becomes a little confusing to me. Earlier, when I started using ATMs, do you want a receipt or not? And do you want to display balance was an activity. They wanted the input right now, but it was going to be, the resultant was at the end, right? What I mean is, do you want a receipt? Yes. If I say yes, I'm basically saying yes to taking a receipt after the transaction is done. After everything is done, the machine is going to print a receipt out. Okay. But the human emotion, right? What in my mind I'm thinking, when I say yes, it should respond to the yes, which means I said yes, but the receipt did not come out of the machine, right? So I'm left with a little bit of a concern whether I clicked the right button or not. What happened, right? And by the way, I mean, these are real life challenges. These are real human emotions that one can map as they're using the ATMs. And this is all real research that is done, right, when designing user interfaces. So this receipt is a little bit of a question mark in my mind, that I said yes, but nothing got printed out right now. That's okay. I'll move forward. Then I have entered 2000 rupees. I take the cash. Okay. Until then, my card is still in the machine and it is gobbled up by the machine, right? It is locked by the machine. After I take the cash, I take the card and I walk out of the ATM. Okay. So this is kind of one journey. Let's look at another journey. I think one of you has quoted that journey also. So the second journey is you insert the card and then you take the card out immediately. There are some workflows where you will find that insert the card, you put in the pin, and then it immediately releases the card, which basically tells you that you can take your card back. Okay. Then you enter the amount, then you select whether you want to have the receipt, and then you take the cash. Okay. Now here what happens is, once I got my card back, I got a feeling in my mind that, hey, once I have the card back, I am kind of a disassociated, I'm kind of detached from the machine. Meaning, I'm a little concerned whether this machine is going to give me the cash, because now it has taken my pin. Okay, so it has asked me to log in, successful login. Now it is giving me my card back, and my login screen is still on, right? So it is a little bit of a security concern to me. What is going to happen next? Whether the machine will allow me cash or not, or is it getting hacked in between by somebody else, right? It leaves a little bit of a doubt in my mind. Okay. So now let's apply the technique of compare and contrast, which we saw earlier, right? So there are two processes. Process number one, and to make it simple, process number one, you take the cash first, card next. Process number two, you take the card first and then the cash later. Okay. Now, can you tell? And here is where, I think you can think about what you think is the best process and give me a. There, by the way, there is no right or wrong answer here. We are just going to make a choice as a part of this exercise. But what do you think? You can type in two as your answer if you think process two is better. You can type in one as your answer if you think process one is better. So I'll give you 30 seconds. Send me your answers in chat. So just, so that I explain this better for, by more elaboration on this, is that process number one is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Process number two is 1, 5, 2, 3, 4. Those are the steps that are rearranged. Which one do you think is a better user experience? Giving the user their cash first and then the card, or giving the card first and then the cash? Okay, so Jayasankar is saying that you should basically give the cash first and then the card. Anybody wants to challenge that? Deepak is saying cash first. Okay. By the way, you will find that if there are like 10 banks in India, those banks, and within the same bank also, there could be different processes that are being set up. This particular workflow that we are seeing is very modular in nature. What to show the user, what interface to show the user at what point in time can be very modular also. But okay, I have a few answers. So let's see, let's evaluate your answers now. Okay. By the way, this is exactly how you should be approaching any problem, right? So you got to apply all of, at least, the four basic skills that you have been taught so far. One, the critical thinking part, right? We talked about collecting data, analyzing it, synthesizing it, applying mental models, and then making a decision, right? Now we'll use a particular technique called compare and contrast, right, between these two, because these are very similar processes. How do you compare and contrast, right? So let's look at that part now. Step number one uh, is definitely, compared to two, one satisfies the user need first, which is collection of cash. So the one intent with which the user is using the ATM machine is to get the cash out, right? Now, and that one intent has been fulfilled. So the user in their mind think that, oh, I was here to take cash, I got my cash, let me go, let me walk out. Contrastingly, the user may be a little uneasy, right? Because you are giving the impression that you got your cash, but you are, once you are done with the step of getting the cash, there is intuitively a reason for the user to leave the ATM machine and leave the card inside the machine, right? And people have done that mistake, right? That your job is done, let's get out of here, right? Contrastingly, the user may be a little uneasy at the first two operations were to insert and remove the card. So in the second scenario, what is happening is you are putting in the card, putting in the pin. Once the pin is successful, once it's validated, it's releasing the card right there. And you are a little uneasy because it gives you an impression that withdrawing a card is becoming burdensome. The friction is that, I was here to take my cash, but I have to follow this interim step of taking my card before I take my cash, right? So might put it in certain level of unease. The second is the security part, right? So compared to one, two seems to be more secure, right? Two is what you give the user the card first. So take back your card and now take your cash. That seems a little more secure because then the user definitely will collect their card and definitely will collect their cash. Why definitely collect their cash? Because the user intentionally has visited the ATM to withdraw cash. So they will not go until that job is complete, right? So they got their card back, they got their cash, and they left the machine. Now the contrast is, unlike this step, two leaves a little doubt in user's mind also, right? That was there another step after I collected the cash? Because remember what has happened, you put in your card, you got your card back by after validating the pin, then you got your cash and your job is done, right? And then you leave the machine. But do you wait and make sure that your transaction is complete and there is no other prompt that is coming up on my screen, or have I left the screen unsecure for some other person to do some fraud after that, right? Did I leave my ATM machine too early for the next person who is standing behind me to do some notorious activity, or peek into my bank balance or whatever, right? So it leaves the user with a little bit of an unease. Okay. Now the third compare and contrast is, let's say, the efficiency. So in the first process, the whole transaction is complete in, let's say, 45 seconds, and in the second, 43 seconds. Okay, I'm just making up these numbers, but let's assume that they are very, very close to each other and comparable. So whether you use process number one or process number two doesn't matter, because they are almost comparable. Okay, so now we have run through the technique. Now let's see from an empathy perspective. Remember, at each step the user is going through a different kind of emotion, right? So while they are performing the mechanical action of putting in the card and putting in the pin and taking the cash and all that, mentally the user is either joyous, or is irritated, or is frustrated, or is concerned, or is angry. Some or the other emotion is flowing through the user's mind as they are moving through the process, or they're happy, right? Finally, once they got their cash, once they got their card, once they know that the screen is back to the default state and nobody else was able to peek at my screen while I was working, they're happy because they got what they want, right? All these are emotional states as you are using the product, right? And that entire change in emotional state, right from the start point to the end point, is the experience your product is delivering to the user. All right, so let's look at how it looks like. Okay, so I've colored this with some hearts. Okay, so the orange heart is wherever the user feels satisfied or secure, and the red marks are where the user feels that the process is burdensome, or where the user feels that there is some security flaws, and so on, right? The third one, the efficiency part, I've just cut out because I think 43 seconds versus 44 seconds or 45 seconds don't make a difference. So compare and contrast are redundant. I just cut out that data, right? So remember, one of the things we learned in critical thinking is throw away the data that you don't need, right? And use only meaningful data to take these decisions, right? So out of this step, now what we have arrived is the final journey looks like this: that take take the card first. Okay, so enter the pin. The moment the user kind of inserts the card, the ATM machine gobbles up the card, asks the user to enter the pin. Once the user enters the pin, the card is released. That time the emotion has gone from happy to concerned, actually, because in my mind I'm thinking that, hey, I got my card back, I was here to collect cash, but when is my cash going to land in my hand, right? So I'm still waiting for the final job that I'm here to do, right? So it's a little bit of concern that I'm not done with my job and I got my card back, right? Now the next is select amount. Once I go to that screen, I'm happy again, because now instead of typing in 2000, I see a button which says 2000. I can one click, I can select the amount. I feel happy again about collecting a receipt or not collecting a receipt at the end. And then I feel happy that I've taken my cash. I finally got my cash. So my card is in my pocket, my cash is in my pocket, my whole transaction is complete. Now, as compared to the earlier consumer journey, this consumer journey puts the user in a little more happier, joyous state of mind, right? And going back to our first principle, right? A good user experience means that your customers are satisfied with what you offer. When your customers are satisfied, you are going to experience growth, right? And UX is all about the thoughts and emotions of the customer when they're using the product, right? So as long as you can take care of the user's emotions and keep them in that happy state when they're using the product, there is guarantee that your product will have repeat customers and it will keep growing, right? That's basically the power of having a beautiful user interface, delivering a great user experience. All right. So we have completed two steps, right? So we have collected data, analyzed it, we have thrown away what we don't need, we have applied compare and contrast, and we have arrived at a particular workflow to follow. Now we are going to design the screen itself. And from here onwards, we can go a little faster for shortage of time also. But now it's all about the interface. Now we know the process of how this cash withdrawal is going to happen. Now let's look at the next the next important thing, which is user interface design. Okay, and the interface design is all about placement of all these buttons and the information on a screen. Remember, we saw this Google UI at the top, or MailChimp UI. Beautifully designed UI is very simple and very context sensitive. They were basically only showing the information that is necessary to the user, right? And all of this is basically called the information architecture and the placement of various of these elements on the screen, right? So ever wondered why, for example, the submit button is at the bottom? On the right side, if you look at, it's a Zomato app, right? You must be familiar with Zomato. At the bottom, there is a search bar, and then there is a menu bar. If you go to add to cart, it is also, or pay option is at the bottom. Submit option is at the bottom. Why? Because intuitively, we end up reading from top to bottom. So even if you're a small mobile phone screen, you read from top to bottom, and then the call to action button. All these buttons are called call to action. They are placed at the bottom because you don't read from top to bottom and then go searching at the top, where should I submit? Where is my? So it becomes logically or natural progression is that you go top to bottom and give the submit button or the action button at the bottom, right? So that's one reason to place it at the bottom. In our case, these are the questions that will come to mind in the user design: that what theme do I use, right? What font do I use? What color, what size, where to place it? um, is there too much cognitive load? You should go to websites like Craigslist. Okay, there's like 100 hyperlinks on that one web page. On the landing page itself, there are like 100 hyperlinks. So it almost seems like you're sitting in a in an aircraft cockpit with these 100 buttons in front of you, and it overwhelms the user. Now the pilot is trained to operate these buttons is a different story. But think about somebody who has never operated a plane, who's suddenly made to sit in the pilot seat and told that go, push this button. You will be so scared to push any button, right? The reason is that too many buttons, too many options cause cognitive load. Cognitive load is basically overwhelming the user with too much information, which is not required at that point in time, right? Then there should be a standardization. So ATM machines, you will find that I think ICICI Bank uses this orange color, or HDFC uses this blue and red color. So there is a standard font, standard color, um, theme, standard size of font, placement. All of that is kind of standardized across the bank, right? In this case. And then whether how I mean, whether the user is standing, bending, sitting. I don't think there are machines where the user is sitting. But think about a machine which is at a railway station versus a machine which is in a room with with a curtain and a CCTV camera and all that, where you feel very secure that nobody's looking at my transaction. Whereas at a railway station, if you're withdrawing cash, how should the machine be placed? How much of UI, what should be shown on the user interface, so that somebody who is standing on my side 10 feet away is not able to see what's happening on my screen, right? All that is becomes very important when you're doing the interface design. And then finally, how many clicks, how many times do you have to click the button to get to where we are? So the 2000 rupee example that we took, right? Why is there an option of 2000 rupees and not allowing user or wanting user to enter exact amount what they want each time? The reason is quick money, right? If the user can complete their entire transaction in 30 seconds, the user will be even happier. So today they are completing it in 45 seconds. That saving of 15 seconds is also a part of the user experience, and you're giving a better user experience to the user, right? All right. So moving forward, this is how it is placed. So our we have selected a theme. We have selected how the amount will look like, whether cancel transaction. So look at, when I enter 10,000, there are only two buttons that are given at the bottom, right? There is one button called um, uh, cancel transaction, another button called withdraw funds, right? So this is the earlier screen. From this screen, I jump to this one, right? Now, the next step, right? I mean, think about, we are still in that those steps of how user interfaces are being designed, right? We are still not done designing our interface. So how it is done? There are what is called as a A/B testing. Have you guys done or know about A/B testing? Can somebody tell me what is a A/B test? What is a A/B test? All the computer science, data science, AI, ML people will definitely know what is a A/B test. You can type in your answers in the chat window. What is a A/B test? Anyone? So what we did here, actually, there is, if the software was such that I can show workflow number one to 50% of my users, and I can show workflow number two to 50%. Or I can say that, all my Mumbai ATM machines will use workflow number two. All my, Delhi ATM machines will use workflow number one. I will get direct feedback which one is more successful, where, and I can take customer feedback, right? Whether you liked one or you like two. So what I'm going to do is, in month of April, Mumbai will get two, Delhi will get one. In month of May, Delhi will get one, Delhi will get two, Mumbai will get one. And then I'll take user feedback to understand which one they like more, right? That's one kind of A/B testing that is done, right? So once I do the A/B testing, I arrive at one, and then I make a final selection by taking a user feedback. Now, before we go ahead with few of the last slides, here is another thing which is super important, which is the empathy mapping, right? So empathy mapping is, why is it important? Because, or how it is done, is through persona building. So you have known that one of the technique that is used um, in either in user research, as well as in consumer journey mapping, as well as defining, who your customer is build a persona, right? Who is using your product? What are their daily habits? How much money do they have in the bank? What is their education like? What is their age group like, and so on, right? So you understand your user better, so that you know how they think, how they feel, what do you hear from them, what do they say, what do you see, and then you can trap their fears and frustrations, and then you can know what their gains or what their wants and needs are. Once you have a clear understanding of it, you are able to design your product to suit the user needs, and give them a better and better experience, and to kind of eliminate all the pains and frustration. That's all you need, right? Really, that if in my 5-step process, you can take out the 2 steps which cause the most frustration and give a much smoother flow, my user is happier, right? So this is a technique used. So let's kind of revise where we are, right? So the entire process, there is research, lot of collection of data, there is empathy, and empathy mapping, which is, like I said, how is the user's emotional journey while the user is working, using the product, becomes very important. Then there is journey mapping, which is basically, number of steps that the user uses to reach their end goal. The third is the design itself. So there are things like, the information architecture, you build a wireframe, what styles you use, what font, what color, placement, and so on, right? You don't show OK button in green on the first screen and the OK button is orange on the next screen, and all this. That becomes confusion, right, to the user. You want to follow a certain consistency. Then what you do is you actually produce the screen, right? So you actually do the development, produce the screen, and then you evaluate, which is through A/B testing or through any other studies, right? You evaluate which flow the user wants the most, and then you launch the product. This is a typical UI UX design process. Of course, there is product management, engineering, testing, everybody's involved as you move through the process. But this is essentially the process, right? So let's go to, so what we have basically done is we have completely designed the user process. Now, what does user experience include, right? How should your interface be? So obviously, it has to be valuable to the user. The biggest, the easiest way to think about any product and its usage is to think about the customer value, right? Is your product valuable? If your product is valuable, you are basically giving good user experience to the product, right? Is the UX credible? Can you trust the system, right? Can the user trust? So a lot of times, you will find that um, at the bottom of websites, you will find that there is text written that this is authenticated by this or verified by this and so on. That is basically adding credibility to the website or to the app. um, is it accessible? There could be systems or user experiences where there is user frustration because there could be people with physical disabilities. There could be people who can only use one arm, right? Is your product designed such that it can be used with one arm, right? If, for example, the ATM machine was designed such that it has to be used with two arms, then it will cause so much user frustration, right? For definitely for people who are physically challenged, but otherwise also, right? So you have to think about accessibility. Findability is finding information. So remember the Google example that we took. We have to make sure that only the relevant information is shown to the user and they are able to find it easily and successfully. um, and then whether your product is desirable. So the credibility and desirability is all about the feeling. The usability and the value is all about how the users think, and the findability and the usefulness as well as accessibility is all about the usefulness of the product. So think, feel, and use put together give the right kind of user experience to the end user. And then this is another process that we talked about. Here is what you have to also know when anybody thinks about UX and UI and the differentiation is that UI is all about what you see, right? And UX is all about what you feel after you're using or while you're using the product. So while driving the car, I'm feeling good. After I finish my car driving, I get out of my car, I'm happy. That's all about feeling. While I'm driving the car, I push this button and my car song started playing, or I pushed the other button and the heater or the AC switched on, and so on. All those are interfaces, right? So anything about how the visual design is, how the color is, how the layout is, how the typography is, meaning font, style, size, color, all of that is basically UI. And typically UI appeals to the right brain, right? Human right brain is where all that is appealed, all that appeals to the right brain. And then UX is all about how the interaction is, how the information architecture is, how it does appeals to, or how do I feel, and that appeals to the left brain of the user, right? So this is kind of the summary. Final storytelling is, now our app is ready. So let's end the exercise with the articulation part, which is now that we have gone through the process of designing a entire workflow for the cash withdrawal at an ATM. We have to communicate with our stakeholders also, right? And this becomes a part of the UX journey. The UX designer can communicate this using multiple ways, right? And nowadays you will find that there is these guides that are available in the menu, right? You open a new app, it opens kind of a shadow screen on top and guides you, right? Here is the first step, second step, here is a tip, and so on. That is one way of telling the story about your new user interface. The other way to think about is that if you are building this user interface yourself, then you have to convey that story to your team, to your engineers, to your testers, which will basically, put your articulation skills to test also, right? So why this UI? It conveys how the user feels after using the ATM. That is how you convey the value of this UX, and why this UI, how the user is going to interact with the ATM, and that's how you convey the interaction of the user with the ATM. All right. And now this is the last slide, by the way. I want you to think about it from two perspectives, right? One is that develop a good design sense. And again, this is a learnable skill. Somebody the other day was saying, hey, you know what, design is not my cup of tea. I don't like design. I can't design. I cannot do artwork. I cannot even hold a pencil in my hand. All those kind of things, right? Don't worry about that, because it is a learnable skill and it takes practice to learn it, right? The way to do it, here is a technique. I mean, this slide is all about technique on how to build a good design sense, right? So number one is always look for good design inspirations. If you find that you are happy after using a product, don't stop there. Think about why this product made me happy. What exactly in this product, what feature, what user experience made me happy? And then I mean, think of all the products that you're using today, right? WhatsApp. If you're using WhatsApp, write down maybe two or three things why you use WhatsApp, why you use Telegram, why are you using Instagram, why do you like it, right? What experience do you like most? If there is one thing that you would like to change, let's say Instagram, right? Let's assume that all of you are using Instagram, you're looking at reels, makes you happy, you feel good about it. If you are the designer and you are given a task of, okay, can we do one change in Instagram which is even better than what it is today, what would that be, right? So observe everything around you with a design lens, study the science and principles of design. So if you are looking at a product or a workflow, especially in a product, right? Let's say you're doing ticket booking on IRCTC or some Make My Trip or Book My Show, whatever, right? You're doing a ticket booking, start to end, there is a workflow. Think about, go through the workflow and think about the emotional change that happened while you are using the workflow. Note it down, write it down, and then you will understand better why this particular workflow is designed this way, and could there be a better way to design this workflow, right? So those are the two or three suggestions I would give. uh, Second last is listen to the user, right? Because the user will always tell you more than what the review comments are, right? If you sit down with a user and give your product for the user to use, let them run through the workflow and then ask them questions that, what do you think about the workflow? Did it make you happy? Do you want any changes? Were you comfortable from start to end operating it? Did you find what you wanted? Did you find that it left you with a secure feeling as you are using my product? Ask those questions to the user, right? And they will tell you exactly what comes to their mind, or when they felt that they were a little insecure, when they felt that they were very happy using the product, and so on. right? And then of course, practice makes perfect. So keep practicing this, keep taking feedback and keep iterating it, so that you build this art of, you build this habit of appreciating a design, and then making small logical changes. Of course, going through our critical thinking, problem solving, articulation, all those methodologies that we have learned so far, to arrive at what is the best of breed, right? What is the best at this point in time, and how can I make this change? Because see, think about it, right? I mean, we have talked about it enough in our earlier conversations, but nowadays the jobs in the market, the expectations of the industry have changed to more of problem solving jobs, right? You should read an article by Microsoft CTO. Let me see if I can send it to here real quick. Okay. What I'm doing is I'm sending you a link in the chat window. You guys should go and read this article, right? It is basically by Microsoft's CTO on future jobs and which jobs are going to be in vogue. What essentially it explains is that 95%, and this is CTO talking now, April 2025, saying that most of the coding jobs are going towards AI. So then what if 95% of my coding is going to be done by AI? Then what am I going to do? You are going to be thinkers, not just coders, right? So not just the execution part of the job, but designing the systems what we design today, right? Those are real life problems that we are going to solve. Now, once you know the workflow, once you know where to place, the UI, now coding it is going to be a real quick thing. I mean, let me show you what I mean by it, right? So this screen on the left side, what you see here, right? If this is the screen you have to build on a web application, the computer can, today's AI apps can give you the screen in like 5 minutes. But to arrive at this screen, why this screen, why the cash deposit is on the right side and the bottom, why the pin change is at the right side and the bottom, all that is where the thinking is. Building the screen, coding the screen is no more thinking, right? It's execution. So think about the job shift that is happening in the market from being a very execution oriented computer industry, especially India and larger parts of the world, to moving towards more design and more problem solving, right? That is a shift that is happening, and thus it is essential to build this skill of building a good design sense, building good problem solving mindset, right? So I'll stop here, but let me know if you have any questions. Are you able to hear me okay? If you are able to hear me, give me a thumbs up so that I know that. Okay, thanks. Any questions for me? I'll stay here for another couple of minutes. All right. Seems like no questions. So thank you very much. Thanks for your time. Hope you enjoyed the session, and hope you practice what you learned today. Thank you. Bye now.